Welcome,
Here we go.
ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, professional cast. Welcome to StarLadder and iLeague StarSeries. And I'm losing
Here we
it.
go.
Season 3.
Last match. Last match.
Last match of
Last
the day.
match.
We've got for you guys. We've got ShtanUdachi versus Kolento. No one knows why we're laughing. It's just one of these days. So we just saw Super JJ get Super JJ baited by Sho, who played a Super Devolve bait on a frog. And JJ didn't know what was coming to him. And he just took the bait like a lot of players have done. We had somebody do the same thing earlier in the tournament, so it seems to be the name of the game today. ShtanUdachi is going to be playing up against Kolento next. We've got him on the Mage, Druid, Paladin lineup. The Rogue is banned. Kolento's Rogue is also banned. And look at that. Aside from the Shaman, they're all playing the same classes. Shaman on Kolento's side is a little bit clunky sometimes to win with against a variety of decks. I think the Shaman for Kolento has been holding him back a little bit, not finding the matchups that it needs to shine in. And we might see that happen again here.
Yeah, I definitely agree about that, and I'm kind of sad that we will not see the rogues in general, because I actually like to see players playing in a rogue in tournament, because as I said before, it's a high skill match, high skill deck as well, and it's just interesting to watch. But in this case, we have to focus on other classes. The Shaman from Kolento, I feel like it's kind of like a bottleneck, you know. It's always kind of falls short because it has awkward draws. Something that we have seen a lot happening with control paladins and with mid-range shamans. And we see less of that with the more aggressive paladins, which are more focusing on the early game with the murlocs, because they have more consistent early game. So that's something that people kind of feel like at the beginning of May kind of didn't think about yet. They were super heavily focused on answering their opponent's threats while forgetting that they need to put threats themselves on board.
And this is why this mid-range Paladin that we see in ShtanUdachi's side here up against the Druid is so effective. It's good at putting down threats, and it's also good at answering them, and it's also good at breaking stalemates, and also transitioning into the late game. So there's really no weak spot that is clear about the mid-range Paladin build. I mean, there are clearly awful spots about it, or weaknesses, but they're very hard to exploit. And barring, very AoE heavy decks or hyper aggressive decks, such as a Pirate Warrior, it's very difficult to push that mid-range Paladin off its game plan. And so Kolento on the J Druid is going to have a bit of a hard time facing off against it, because the Murlocs usually end up taking over. Cards like Spike's Seed are super effective, and it makes the Druid's life miserable.
Stegeron uses Slam. It's super effective.
Hey, it is super effective. It totally is. Most effective play ever.
Interesting play. Okay, can you explain why the War Leader, instead of just going for the Defender here?
Sets up for Megasaur. In some cases, also sometimes gets the Druid to Wrath instead of playing Jade Spirit, and if he plays Wrath instead of Jade Spirit, then you play Megasaur, and then he has no answer to it immediately. So he's always going to be on the back foot tempo-wise. So it's a tempo play that I think sets up very nicely for the Spike's Steed, where you're supposed to be left with a minion on the board. So yeah, that's kind of the point. Definitely felt a little bit weird, but it's just for tempo purposes. His hand is a little bit clunky. The texture of it doesn't lend itself to being very aggressive.
Right. So, every single time I watch a War Leader, it's such a powerful card, especially against Druids. I feel like you need to keep it until you actually get value out of it. But it might be something that actually keeps me down when it comes to the interaction with the classes that require more board control, right? So in this case, against Druids, you want to have as many minions as possible in the early game, and that's the reason. Finja on 5, on 6, is not the same way it is on 5. Such a fantastic card.
Yeah, ShtanUdachi is going to be able to play the Spike Steed on curve on that Finja and extract a few Murlocs to set up. By having the Spike Steed on the Finja too, he's protecting those Murlocs, and by protecting them is likely going to get himself some good, gentle Megasaur value, if that's the line of play he goes for. And I have no doubt that that's what he's going to end up doing. I mean, there's a fringe argument in favor of attacking first, then Megasauring, but I'd be a big fan of seeing the Spike Steed first. I don't know. Maybe not. It's kind of hard to say because you're pulling. It's unlikely you pull a second War Leader. There's so many 1-drops in your deck. It's kind of rare to pull that off. Now with the Hydrologist, that changes things because you picked up another Murloc to play, and that makes your Megasaur a lot more appealing suddenly.
Okay. Well, this is an interesting turns of event.
This definitely changes the way you want to play this turn out because the Spike Steed looked to me like the better protective play against those Murlocs, but... Oh my god, where's that swipe? These Divine Shields are going to completely stall Kolento.
Well, the swipe would be super handy here in this situation, but still, 2 Rafts and Hero Power can help.
You can kill the Megasaur. I mean, you need to kill Finja. Priority number 1, let's kill Finja. So we ping the Divine Shield, try to pick up that swipe. Are we good at the game? Can we pick up swipe? Yes, we can! We're good at the game. Pretty good at Hearthstone.
That's disgusting.
We're pretty good at Hearthstone. Full board clear here is presented to Kolento, who picks up a swipe, and that means ShtanUdachi is facing down Jades with no board to retaliate immediately, and that's going to take a few turns before he can recover from this. He can do it, but it's not going to be easy, as he's just spent the biggest board flood that he has in the deck.
And he's lacking Consecration for that equality to make the comeback.
So, we're looking for Sunkeeper, Primordial Drake. I think the Drake might be...
I think it's better.
It's tough to say, because the Sunkeeper really lines up well against Jades. You nullify them, and you can soak up to 2 of them, just because Sunkeeper eats them up. But there's Equality Drake for 10.
Exactly. And when you have no Consecration in your hand... Oh man, I just got upgrade in the quality of the stream. Oh, now I can see the numbers.
Okay, we're Wicker Flame Burn Bristling here. He's just trying to keep himself alive, or playing defensively, trying to maximize the odds that he has a body left over for a Spike Steed turn at some point. I really thought that he would opt for the Sunkeeper to tank the Jades. Maybe even on turn 8, it lined up okay. You get yourself an extra 1-1. He really values the immediate board presence over the future board clears. I thought with turn 8, you know, Hero Power Spiker Steed into Hero Power Spiker Steed into Equality Drake, he would have just slowed down.
Yeah, I would have thought the same, but we have seen that Shtan prefers the board control against Druids in general, right? We already have seen that. So he kind of sticks to the plan. Something that he planned from turn 2 or 3, he sticks to it in the end game as well. It might not work out, but at the same time he's consistent with what he was thinking in the beginning.
Right. He can still get a good Wicker Flame Spiker Steed on 9. That might have been why he's setting this up. He's counting on the draws to catch up.
What I think what he's doing is actually just thinking that his only out to make this game winnable would be Equality Consecration and not Equality Primordial Drake, because he knows he has to have his own board, and just one Primordial Drake is not enough. So maybe that's what he's thinking. So he wants to survive as long as possible to get that Consecration draw.
Alright, well that Federal is going to at least find more value for Kolento than he already had. He's swimming in value, but he's going to find more and more. These Jades are scaling up to 6/6 very soon, and that's going to spell ShtanUdachi's inevitable demise. Because unlike something like Jade Shaman, which you can sometimes exhaust, Jade Druid does not let go. Once it gets the Jade train going, it just keeps going. It never stops. It just keeps getting more Jades. Jade Idols and whatnot can just keep coming out. And so ShtanUdachi finds himself in the spot we discussed, and picks up the Consecration off the draw. And that's the catch-up mechanism he was looking for. I had not anticipated he would find you know, the likely outcome, given that he gave up on the Primordial Drake. But that's a comeback whenever he wants it.
And he still plays passive because he knows that the Wicker Flame will give him almost full heal. And at the same time, his opponent has to expand the board to still have like a, you know, an advantage and pressure stand with damage. If that's not going to happen, the Truth of the Champion will help out. So he can still keep the equality consecration for the panic button when 2 or 3 huge Jade Golems will appear.
Well, that is correct. Kolento now wondering if he has to Wild Growth to get excess mana in his hand before the Auctioneers. Honestly, I think that's pretty good, just starting with the Wild Growth. You may not even need to draw this turn, but if he thinks he needs to get the Jade Train, you know, online as early as possible, then using excess mana now is definitely okay. Look at that. Jades keep coming out, and Kolento's transitioning into his final form. 15 armor.
Well, green hair and yellow hair, very close to each other. Almost the same color.
This is where we need the soundboard ready.
It's over 9,000!
I'm a fire in my laser! So ShtanUdachi is probably going to drop... Sorry, it's a lot less intelligible in the TV show.
So Shtan is Cell? Okay.
Yeah, Shtan is Cell.
And Kolento's who? Vegeta?
Looks like Gohan to me. Looks like Trunk. Trunk, is that his name?
Yeah, Trunks.
Yeah, it looks like him. If you just like dye his hair purple, you're good to go, right? Or whatever the color of the hair was.
Great, I think.
It looked purple to me. It looked like light purple.
Maybe my teenage memory is making some tricks on me.
Yeah.
All right.
So here we're going through the motions. Kolento just setting up the biggest Jade that he can, knowing full well that in his deck are lurking about 1,000 Jades waiting to be unleashed upon the world and plague ShtanUdachi's win rate with a solid 0. There could still be a world in which ShtanUdachi comes back if you run a runner's board clears. I mean, that's possible, but it's very unlikely. Kolento would have to draw complete air for 2 draws in a row. And it can't be just like interface.
When you have an auction.
Yeah,
every single draw now, every single draw now is actually good because you either draw spells for the auctioneer or you get Jade Golems.
Yeah, there's almost nothing you don't want. And now the Tyrion is even going to override the Truth of our Champion, making this whole thing even more clunky for ShtanUdachi. Does Kolento play Harrison Jones in the deck? Because if he does, then there's a chance he picks it up right away and can innervate it out to deal with the Ashbringer.
Okay, well, maybe that's an awkward draw.
I mean, there are awkward draws. They're just very few and far between if you consider everything in the deck. Like, even if he just gets a Jade Generator... I mean, even if he nourishes, there's a chance he finds Jade Idol, and it's fine. Like, that's how good Kolento's spot is. That's just how good it is. Yeah.
So that's 8/8 Golem, right?
Justice demands, bottom right, buddy. There's very little ShtanUdachi can do. Oh, yeah. Rest in peace, Shtan.
Can't really dig yourself out of this mess, I would say.
No, I can't really think of a single card in ShtanUdachi's deck. Even if he were to get a 1-mana Tyrion from a Stonehill Defender, I still think Kolento's taking this. Like, that's how far behind ShtanUdachi is right now. So let's assume worst case scenario. Shtan has equality consec for you if you're Kolento. What's up? Like, what does that worry you?
Well, you just draw with Nourish. You see what you get. If you get 2 Jade Idlers, you just shuffle one back and play another Jade Golem right now.
Yeah.
I think, because I'm not sure about the health totals. It's 18 on Shtan.
There's 18 on Shtan, which means he's liable to take maybe... Oh, wow. Gluttonous.
Look at
why
that.
not? Let's just... Why not? Let's go. We're wondering what to do, Kolento. Here it is. This is your chance.
Wait, didn't Kolento
Does he
actually
have-
use 2 Jade Idols?
I think he's got lethal if he fell rages the Curator, and it's not a redemption. Right? Now he still has lethal through... Does he still have lethal through redemption? I don't think so. He's going to be a little bit short, because he can't attack with Fell Rage.
Yeah.
If he had swipe somewhere in there, I think he won, because he could swipe face now, and then it would
But
kill
he used 2
the
swipes
Curator.
already.
Right.
Well, the game finished anyway. Shtan recognizes he has no more outs.
That Jade Druid finds a win. What's up with that?
I don't know, it's not something new. I wasn't actually expecting that, and I'm not prepared. So Kolento is now 2-4 in matches, and that is his last match. The same for ShtanUdachi. So one of those guys is gonna be actually fighting for the 4th spot. It's actually a high-pressure match, when you think about it.
Yeah,
They're
one of them
both
will be
2-4.
alive to fight for it, right? And the other will
Yes.
just fall down.
I mean, 4 players have the opportunity to be on the 4th spot. JJ with the 2-4, Kolento with the 2-4, Shtan with the 2-4, and Pavel with the 2-3. Those are the players that will be battling for the 4th spot. And I can't remember the head-to-head results yet, but yeah.
Tiebreaker-wise, I think they're ordered in the standing, so we'll see them
But-
afterwards.
If Pavel manages to win 2 matches, he's guaranteed to be at 4th place. Because he will be the only player with 3 losses and 4 wins. So Pavel has the biggest chance because he can just win twice, and that's about it.
Kolento picks up the... I mean, the matchup, again, is favored for the Paladin here. We saw the Jade Druid upset in the last game because the Paladin draw from ShtanUdachi wasn't exactly stellar. Didn't have the 1/2 into 3. Had to play War Leader on tempo on turn 3, then buff it with +1/+1 with Megasaur. Things went a bit too slow for the explosiveness that the deck demands against Jade. So when you're looking at this hand from Kolento, you can definitely tell that he's going to be doing better on average than his opponent did against him with the same deck. On the flip side, Fandral comes out.
Fandral in turn 2 is it's a good sign, I would say, for Shtan. And now the question is, Kolento, will you want to use the equality for that? Too bad he couldn't play the Repentance last turn, because that would be like the perfect solution. But with 2 mana, we can't really do that.
I mean, would you have even played it is the question, because oftentimes you're keeping it for stuff like Drake.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part, is like there's no playing around Innervate Fandral or Innervate Jade Spirit with the Repentance, so I think you're just...
And most likely the first minion that's gonna get played is Jade Spirit, and that's fantastic. Then you Repentance for 2 damage.
Yeah.
Definitely not the best choice. But wow, he's being pushed to use the equality. Well, I'm not really surprised. I would say that Fandral is one of the key cards in Jade Druid that can just push the deck to the limits of being oppressive.
Well, Fandral is just it's probably the strongest Druid card when it's got the right tools. If it's left unchecked, then you're able to just do whatever you want with it. A lot of the spells in your deck just are so strong that you get to draw cards off of Wrath, you get to Nourish for draw and Crystal. Some of the plays you make with it are just absurd, which explains why Kolento felt pressure to use the equality. Now, ShtanUdachi might go for Jade Behemoth, but the Jade Blossom sets up for a really good Primordial Drake setup, and suddenly he might be just throwing himself into the Wolf's Maw here, not expecting the Repentance. Might play around it by playing Jade Behemoth first, we'll see. That's Tegodon, though.
Awkward turn, let's say like that, right? It's nothing new. It's the consecration value went downhill from the moment that Kolento did play the equality. So maybe it's just worth it to just play it right now.
That's a good point. But you can wait
I'm
if you
sure
have a
actually
4/4 Jade. If you have a 4/4 Jade that comes up, you can use Consec with it. So that's another thing to consider. If there are more J's that come up, then that's definitely good. You have Repentance again, right? So you're still getting good value on the Consecration on the following turn, but that's like the last time you'll get it. This is the last bit of value you'll see from this Consec, I think, until you pick up the follow-up. But what a weak play, man. This might just be the 2/3 played with the Rockpool Hunter, just to set up for Murloc plays or Gentle Megasaurs to play around Primordial Drake. If you can find yourself that extra little push with Poisonous, then the Druid can't edge you out of the game.
Man, look at all those plays are kind of like arena-like, right? The Hunter being played with no synergy. The only promise is to have the synergy with the Megazord next turn and the War Leader. But they just play a vanilla 2/3. Not very exciting, to say the least. So definitely nothing going Kolento's way in this game. At least he has Tyrion on turn 8, but it's still kind of too slow.
But if this Megasaur picks up Poisonous, though, I think Kolento's in great shape.
Yes.
Well, I say great shape. We see the Gluttonous Ooze, but yeah, it probably needs to be that. Or +3 attack. You have the War Leader as well, right? So you make your guy 4, and then you give +3. So it goes up to 7, and the Stegodon can trade. So you can generate a kind of double trade. So I think you have a higher than 50% chance of killing that Drake with your little Murloc and the Stegodon, and possibly a good chance of just killing it with the 2/1. So maybe Kolento hesitates, because if he plays a War Leader first, then he gets 2.
Well, he was just thinking about does he go for 2 outer with the Poisonous and the plus attack, or does he go for Inquisitor and Hero Power and just 1 out? In this case, he actually missed because there's +3 health, right?
Yeah, +3 health, the Death Rattle,
and Divine Shield. So that's kind of awkward. So now he needs to play time, I guess.
I mean, this is fine for now, because that 3/6 War Leader is not going to die easily. 3/6 behind a 2/1 with Taunt only really gets punished by swipe or double removal turn like Fellow Rage Wrath. So oftentimes this ends up working out in Kolento's favor. For the trades at the very least. Alright, got away with this. Not too big of an upfront payment to make. And now you've seen the 2 Primordial Drakes, which are the 2 biggest fears that you have to play around. No longer do you have to play around very much, aside from the usual swipes and rats. No more AoE coming down from that Druid. Nothing, at least, that's too bursty.
It's kind of awkward. If you would have had that Poisonous, man. Such a swing. Such a tempo swing. In this situation...
Poisonous is actually one of the reasons you... Like, that Adapt is one of the reasons why mid-range Paladin is so hard to target as a deck, is that technically if you just play a bunch of taunts, you win. That, like, theoretically, if you just have a bunch of stuff to stop them from connecting early, you win. The problem is Poisonous is a possibility a sufficient amount of the time that you can't just edge them out. You can't assume that they're going to be to lose to you, and that's a crazy fact about the deck, that it's being held together by this 4-drop in Gentle Megasaur, sometimes just winning matchups it shouldn't.
Another card that was actually underrated in the initial reviews of cards from Angoro. Now on 4 it will be playable. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think Rockpool Hunter so we had Gentle Megasaur as one of the first few reveals or leaks or whatever, and then we saw the Rockpool Hunter much later, and then we realized, well, Murlocs might just be good at that point, and Gluttonous Ooze is gonna eat Ashbringer! Best value it can ever get in the matchup, no charges even taken, but Finja for Kolento.
That's something that might put him back into the driver's seat. I think that's the only card that was actually like something that will help him out.
Yeah, I like Kolento's line of play too. Just goes ahead and plays the double Murloc after the Tidecaller, basically forcing his opponent to trade the Ooze away if he wants to, to get the kill on it. That's a 4-2, so you have to respect it. You've seen 2 rats, you've seen the Primordial Drake, so you're getting swipes at this point. You're looking at swipe, you're looking at the Feral Rages, with swipe being the most likely candidate. Coin still in the hand. Guy's been around for a while.
Interesting. Just Behemoth, keep the swipe. I kind of like it. One Megazord was already played and you put actually a lot of power on board. And this is not enough damage to even kill the Behemoth here.
It's enough if you play Primordial Drake after trading, but on its own, it's definitely not enough, yeah. That feels awkward for Kolento, but I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. At least the low-value Murlocs have been put out, right? He put out the low-value Murlocs with the tide colors being already drawn. So he's gonna get himself the second War Leader, I think.
Yeah, as the War Leader. So that helps a little bit, but ShtanUdachi just did draw 3 cards with Innervate, so the chance of having removal is actually super high. And that spells disaster for Kolento just in like a matter of 2 turns. Now he has the board control, and he'll still probably have the board control in the next turn, but after that, Shtan will just be able to refill the board with Jade cards.
Yeah, infinitely. So one of the outs for Kolento usually would be Megasaur, but not the case this time around.
Oh, interesting. He went for the Earthen Scales and top deck Jade Idol. Well, okay. If you know that you were gonna get that draw, then it's obviously the better choice.
Well, it helps a lot to protect the Gaddisand from the Drake trade, right? So you're setting up, like, you're not letting the Tide Color get any value. You're not letting the Drake extract any value on its own. So I could understand why he's committing to that line. What would you? At the
same time, I mean, you had the Wild Growth, right, which is drawing 2 cards, draws 2 cards, and the +1 on the Auctioneer. Okay, makes a difference with the trades, but sometimes you just want to have those golems next turn to just get to draw as many cards as possible, because you know you will get back on that board. You just need to survive 1 turn, and the Earthen Scales, when your goals become 6/6, 7/7s, 8/8, they will rescue you and go back, and you will go back with your health to your starting pool, basically.
Fair enough. I could see that. In this case, though, I mean, it's all water under the bridge because he's just spawning infinite Jades, regardless.
Yeah, I mean,
but in some cases, you're right.
Shtan just wanted to have that Jade added this turn to go faster on the board, which is understandable as well. So he went for a more risky play, but he was rewarded very high.
Yeah, it was a very risky line, because otherwise he was left with a little bit less on that 1 turn. Yeah, in the end though, with what's left in the deck, and what he's got in hand, and the Paladin losing Tyrion's weapon was so big, because look at the size of these Jays, right? The Paladin weapon would have been in time for the 4/4, the 5/5, and the 6/6 combined with a 1/1, so it would have extracted a ton of value, and as a result of that, tempo. So Kolento just got absolutely destroyed by the Gluttonous Ooze, more so than anything else. The Innervate on Fandral early completely destroyed his game plan as well. Everything went downhill after that.
That was such a problematic turn for Kolento with the equality.
Yeah. Was there even a proper answer, right? Like, you couldn't let that Fandral live because you just lost. If there was a Wrath into cycle, and then you could not deal with it. Yeah, it's just one of these unfortunate lines where very little you do changes the outcome of the game. Now, that Sunkeeper Tarim can come in and help equalize the field a little bit. It's the best you're going to get this game, given the way this game, the direction of the game. But you're not hoping this is going to work. He's got 2 Fel Rages left in the deck. He's got his Aya Black Boss still in there. Infinite Jade Idols down in the bottom of the deck. How does Kolento do it? Pretty much can't.
Yeah, I agree. There's almost no way out for Kolento here.
Bottom right, buddy. Pretty much the story of these 2 games. So as we saw, this unfavored matchup that's really hard sometimes to catch up with when you're the Druid player is it went the way of the Druid twice in a row here. We just had Kolento win with the Druid up against the Paladin, and now we have ShtanUdachi doing the exact same thing to his opponent.
Well, statistically speaking, we were talking that we didn't see Druid winning for a very long time, and it finally had to happen, right? So it happened just twice.
All right, no more Druids in either player's lineup. They have both won. ShtanUdachi with the Mage. It is the Burn Mage, I believe. Value generating Mage, I think so. And then on Kolento's side, we've got the mid-range Shaman. Oh, we've seen some Secret Mage, a lot of it actually.
Oh yeah, right. Xixo played this, right? So yeah, that's true.
With holy fire.
I expected more Secret Mage, to be fair. A whole lot more, but... Oh my god! So Kolento on the Shaman. Unique build, runs Lightning Storm, double Maelstrom, double Devolve. The Lightning Storm being the unique factor here, as this is very often cut out of the decks nowadays. The double Devolve is especially strong against strong Paladin openers. Not a great card in a vacuum, but against powerful Paladin openers, you do a ton of work with it. You can nullify Spark Steeds in later stages if they don't open strong, but you're almost hoping that they get a good early board so you can completely shut it down. Funny enough...
I think this is a Devolve target, right?
Yeah, this is exactly what the Devolve wants to do in the deck. These guys are not likely to come back as Murlocs. Oh!
That's awkward. That is really awkward because this will be set up behind the board of a defender, and that health will stack for a very long time unless Kolento would like to coin out a Jade Lightning on a target that was devolved. That was such a waste.
Okay, we can re-devolve. Okay, we can maybe it's not time to do it yet, but at any point we can turn it into a Wisp. That's fine. You know, we've got an option here. It's not awful. Okay. Time to think this one through. Maybe we just play Hot Spring Guardian and slow them down. We're playing into True Server really hard, though, if we do that.
Yeah, I don't think you want to lose any value here. So by playing Firefly, you basically not lose anything. And you can always top the Tolvir next turn, which is terrible against this board, so maybe never mind. But at least you can play that Devolve next turn, if you really want it. Maybe you will get a Milestone Portal as well? Who knows?
Now that you have Kalimos, you can actually play around with that knowledge. It matters a ton, because it's easy to set up when you've got the Flame Elemental, the Hot Spring Guardian, and the Fire Ellie. So as long as you keep your coin, you can go for Fire Ellie on 6 naturally into Kalimos on 7, which can swing the game back in your favor. So one of the big things here for Kolento is just don't overcommit, commit just enough to get that swing turn ready, and you should be able to take the board after that point.
Yeah.
At this point, that Priestess, though.
You remember the times when that Priestess was played in every single aggro deck, and an opener, like when you played Priestess, was like, oh my god. GG.
You know what? I actually played her a lot early in Ungoro. I was trying out the Paladin buff deck, and she was actually not too bad a target for the buffs. Like, if you coined her out with another 1-drop, because the idea was to just have a bunch of stuff, so you played Arcade Anomaly and just buffers to make your stuff stay alive, and then you just buff it to get those buffs back afterwards, Primal Fin Champion and whatnot. So, she was okay, but she's super weak to AoE, and that's one of the big reasons I think she's sort of falling out of favor in aggro decks. She's just too slow. She dies to patches, she dies to Mazah's first mate, she dies to everything. If she were a 1-2, though, like she was an alpha.
Yeah, that would have been too good. Too good. Okay, so what is Kolento's plan here? Devolve and Spring Garden looks like on the curve, but still feels bad when you have to devolve targets that are just such a low value, right? And you know that when you're playing against a Paladin, so that devolve has huge impact on cards like Spikered Steed and Blessing of Kings, which ShtanUdachi plays. So this is getting out of hand pretty quickly. No Murlocs.
Not a big deal, though. All you need is a wide board and a Sunkeeper Tareem.
out of
I think we're going to see
Defender.
Kolento. Kolento is probably going to go for that Fire Alien to coin Kalimo's turn. He spotted it very early. I think it was pretty obvious. Now the thing is, you're sending a telegraph if you ping the 1/5. Like if your Fire Elemental hits the 1/5, you're telling your opponent, "All right, I'm going for Tareem." So you still have to play it normally and target something you would normally target, like the Priestess.
Yeah, I agree. You just cannot telegraph that. Kolento goes with that choice. And still, most likely, I mean, maybe that will not even be the Kalimo's turn. Because of the fact that your opponent will sacrifice the 1/1 and the Truce of a Champion to kill the Fire Elemental. So then the Kalimo is not really that impactful, kills just one minion. And that's about it. So how do you feel about a Hex here? And
You have
Never
to play
mind.
Hot Spring Guardian afterwards. I don't mind the Hot Spring Guardian afterwards, but you have to because you can still set up a really good elemental turn. The issue is since you have only one Hex and you're going to turn 8, there are some considerations for not really using it up just yet. I mean, I don't even mind Kalimos. I think it's still okay. You're trading.
well, it dies on board, right? That's the awful thing.
But it's a 1-for-1 though. Like it's a 1 for the board. So you play one card to get rid of the entire board. I think that's usually acceptable. I think if your opponent's spending everything here to trade into Kalimos, that's fine. Alternatively, you make a bunch of 1/1s to just like force the opponent to use removal, and then you refill with what you've got in hand. Either way, you're pretty all in at the moment. Either way, you're just all in. Like no matter how I spin this for Kolento, he's just gonna have to play his cards and try to go as wide as possible every single turn until the opponent hopefully stars for resources. But given what I see in ShtanUdachi's hand, I don't think that's happening. Not anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure if I like the Kalimos with the spawns, but I guess it is an out. But at the same time, you play against a Paladin with 2 Consecrations, 2 Primordial Drakes. And he already has also 2 minions that are just created to destroy 1/1s. So it's kind of awkward. And it still creates a fantastic board for Terran next turn. Even when you downgrade 1 minion, the other ones are getting an upgrade. So definitely a good turn for Terran. And your opponent will most likely play at least 1 or 2 minions. And that means, like, if it's not a totem, it's fine. And even if it is totem, then you can still kill it first, of course.
Right. That's you can get value trades very easily here before you go in. And the crazy part I think about all this is that ShtanUdachi has been offering Kolento really good AoE turns. You know, like the 6/1 into Maelstrom Portal. And Kolento just doesn't do it. So ShtanUdachi is getting 100% read that there is simply no Maelstrom Portal. So every single time he pings that 1/1 button, he assumes that it's going to stick around. So if he wants to get greedy here, he's got a really good argument too. I mean, I don't see why you would suddenly start slowing down if you're about to close the game so quick.
Yeah, I agree. And here we see Terran. Man, there is so much pressure at the same time.
Devolve into Lightning Storm strikes me as one of the few ways in which Kolento catches up.
Still, the default doesn't really do that much. Terran becomes actually a 5-drop, which will have most likely better stats than this. I mean, when it comes to the attack.
I mean, you might kill the 3/3 first, the Tar Creeper.
And that's a 6-drop, right? You need to kill it first, because otherwise it becomes a 5/5. And that's just really better than a 3/3 with taunt.
And, okay. And that guy again! What's up with that guy?
Two-headed rogue, man.
Oh, man.
Maybe he flew from Heroes of Might and Magic here, and he's like, yeah, that's my new home.
Oh my god, the memories. The memory
Nostalgia, right? Yeah.
And Mighty Berserker came out on the board. But even though he wanted a little blood, just got trolled by the Jade Lightning. ShtanUdachi, with the options still, he's got the most options of both players. He's got the biggest hand. He's got AoE clear. He's got board development. He's got a Murloc that he got from Devolve randomly, so he can still use Megasaur. and the Rockpool Hunter. He's got pretty much everything he wants. I can't see
How
how.
do you feel about just the Rockpool Hunter into Megazord and then maybe into a second Megazord?
I'm a big fan of that line of play. I think it's the most Murlocs you're gonna get this game at this point. So.
Huh. Okay. So if he doesn't go for the Murloc Hunter, then he wants to play
Where's
something for 6
Sparks
mana.
feeding with Wind Fury? That's brilliant. That's the lethal setup here by ShtanUdachi. Gets the kill with the Wind Fury 4/7. Thanks, Devolve, for that Murloc. Lovely, lovely person. ShtanUdachi will take another game, of course, with that mid-range Paladin. One of the decks that we expect to see win, at the very least so far in the event. It's been one of the most consistent forces to be reckoned with. And now Mage left for ShtanUdachi, up against Paladin and Shaman from Kolento. That Mage against the mid-range Paladin should, depending on how it's built, have a fairly even matchup. I'd be a bit more worried for Kolento because he's stuck with a Shaman against the Mage. So there's not enough healing in there, man. There's just not.
We also talked before the game that Shaman kind of falls short in almost every single match, right? When we can see it. It's just inconsistent. And it doesn't have the big payout as it feels like usually the Shaman has the big payout. In this case, it just doesn't feel it has any setup. It doesn't go the way when it has a setup for Bloodlust. It has a setup for like Spirit Echo. No one plays it actually here. Sorry, one player was actually playing one Spirit Echo, but that's about it. And such a weird position for the Shaman. And what a fantastic opener for ShtanUdachi, the Arcanologist on 10-1. It's only bad against the Rockpool Hunter, but still then it allows you to ping the Tide Caller, which is good enough.
Yeah, it still gives you a trade, but in this case, it's going to get even more work done because there are no pings on Kolento's side. No longer do we have muster for battle in the meta, so this 2-3 is not going to be dealt with easily. And is going to extract maximum value. Gets the best one drop in the deck, pretty much in terms of raw power output, right? By sniping this little 2-2.
Yeah.
And is going to force Kolento to spread himself a little
Great
bit.
Arcan Missiles. Not bad against Paladins.
Okay.
Especially after Tarim, right?
Yeah, you can kill minions with it. It's not bad. Sometimes lets you set up lethals if you're looking for just a bit more of an edge. So Frost Bolt. So you could keep the Hydrologist undamaged to set up the Rockpool Hunter. You know, that's probably better than. So he is not going to choose to trade into the 1/4 here. Playing into Consecration pretty hard.
Well, I guess you can just make a read if your opponent has a Consecration, like practically lose. But at the same time, if he doesn't have the Consecration, then I have the full read of what's going to happen, and I can commit into the Sorcerer's Apprentice next turn.
Okay, so he's fishing for a read? Fair enough.
I think so.
I would have assumed he would trade Babbling Book, play the Frostbolt, and then trade away the Arcanologist before Truce Over Champion comes out.
Ooh, a Glyph. Fantastic. Although, why did he trade first? Okay. Interesting. So what do you think about choosing not to Glyph this turn because he wanted to be on curve with the Ice Block? Interesting.
Maybe he's trying to figure out if he's going to need some kind of response to what his opponent plays on 5. Is there anything on 5 you're worried about that comes out? Not specifically, right?
Well, the Finja is the only thing that comes to mind.
Right, but you can't beat it with any card you get from the Glyph anyway. You could have beaten it if you played the Glyph prior and fished up a Flame Strike, so you had to play the Glyph first in order to do that, but that's the only difference. I guess you play more spells this way. Don't you? Because you can guarantee you can play the spell you get from the Glyph most of the time.
Well, what could have been done with the Glyph is that you can pick up a Frost Nova, an example, freeze the board, and then Flame Strike it the turn after. Right? But he didn't have the Flame Strike at that point, so he couldn't plan that, but it might have been the outcome.
Now we're going to see Kolento probably inch his way towards that Apprentice kill. I mean, there's potentially... Now, you're always losing your Finja if you're attacking the Mana Worm, even if you buff it. So I think the play is just to play more cautiously. Value your Murlocs. Play around Mirror Entity and Polymorph by starting with the Stonehill.
I swear, every single time there's a War Leader from Finja. Every single time. Whatever the deck is big, like it might be 10 Murlocs still in the deck, there'll always be a War Leader here.
Well, that's the kind of the big upside of Finja, really, is that usually you're mulliganing hard for those 1 and 2s, and so the odds of them, being in your deck still it's pretty slim compared to what it usually would be. So you're supposed to find more of them. On paper, you're just supposed to find more.
Alright, so now Kolento just fishes for the Megazord, and does he get it? No, but he has an upgrade. So unless there's a Spellbender...
Oh my god! Grime Street Protector. I'm gonna stop you right there. But that gives Divine Shield to the 2 stronger Murlocs, right? I'm gonna stop you right there. Okay. How do we play this turn then? Do we just play that, or is there a consideration for ever something else?
No, I think that's the best play. You're right.
I like this Steed. But you have to really be sure that it's not going to be a counterspell or spellbender, which is kind of hard to evaluate, isn't it? Did one of the secrets come out of the glyph?
Did it? I'm actually not sure, because
No, I don't think so.
He did get Arcane Intellect from the glyph, and he used that. So both of those secrets are from his deck.
Okay, so he knows what those are. It could be a counterspell. More likely than not, given the way that these decks are built. But that's an insane result from the Grime Street Protector. Going to the Flame Strike turn has a perfect way to stall and make sure his Murlocs, the important ones at least, survive.
That Flame Strike is pretty awkward. Kind of late to the party.
You could always ping the shield off. You could Arcane Elect first, see what you pick up. Maybe you find a Glyph, then you Frost Nova. Then you get to ping something on the following turn. Okay. It's not counterspell on the board. I missed what it was. Might have been ours, Ice Barrier.
Ice Book 100%, and the second one is...
Was it from the Babbling Book, perhaps? I feel like it has to have been from the Babbling Book, and I just missed it.
Probably lagged and didn't see it.
Yeah. Welcome to online casting. Setting up a really good Flame Strike here, though. Trying to maximize the outs of him popping everything up and trying to stay alive through the block. But Kolento has sufficient damage to pop that block. I think
and
even
still picks up a Megazord.
Yeah, I think you have to play it, though, since if there is an Ice Barrier, you're still going to be a little bit short. Because you're only going to be able to push 14 this turn, and the guy's going to be at effective 19. So Megazord would be required.
But he can make that decision after he attacks.
Okay, it definitely is an Ice Barrier. He would have checked for it last turn. There were still 2 secrets. What am I talking about? Oh my god, Divine Shield again?
Fantastic.
Good luck, Mage. Yeah, Kolento's not on his Shaman, by the way. I know the icon is misleading, but he's on Paladin. This is Uther and not Thrall. Can we freeze? It's important that we do. And he's going to checkmate this and give Kolento the win. This is exactly why
2-2.
Paladin's good.
And the last game will go to the Kolento's Shaman. And we know how it go so far with that deck. So it doesn't look good for Kolento. That Shaman might be the downfall of his entire lineup and the downfall of his tournament life here, because as you said before, Kolento is on a 2-4 and Shtan is on a 2-4 as well, so they both are fighting for life and for the last chance tournament.
Kolento on the Shaman has very, very unique decks. We see the Lightning Storm and the Hammer of Twilight, usually not included in these lists. But the Hammer of Twilight's been doing quite a bit of work for him. When he finds it in the right matchup, it can simply close out games. Lightning Storm, not something you usually keep against these Mage decks, but given the hand that we see, It might have come in handy. ShtanUdachi is going to get the Nut Opener with the Mana Worm, with the Archaeologist, with the Glyph, with the Apprentice. He just has everything. If this hand doesn't win, I don't think a hand can win from that Mage.
The Glyph is pretty important. If he misses with the Glyph, like he doesn't get anything important and any good spell from it, then it might be a whiff. Because, oh my god. Okay, but he Glyph this turn.
I think you have to Glyph on the following turn with the Apprentice, right? Because it's going to make your spells cost 1 less. So you can get a free secret right away, which is effectively the same as playing Apprentice as a Kirintor Mage, which in some cases can just single-handedly win you a game. And a 1-3 here for ShtanUdachi is going to give him some ping counter potential on this little Firefly, but ultimately not going to lead to the snowball that he was hoping for.
I just like the Glyphs on turn 2 with the Mana Vein, because then you can guarantee a trade and play around Flaming Totem. But sure, I can understand the reasoning here.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Alright, let's see what the Glyph will bring, because so far there are only 3 secrets in the deck and not really, in the hand, and not really anything else that puts any pressure on board. So Shtan is pushed to use the Frostbolt just to take partial health of the defender. Of the Dark Reaper.
Yeah, it's one of those awkward spots you're put in when you're playing for chip damage and you lose the board because of something like a devolve. 1-mana Polymorph, though. Pretty strong for ShtanUdachi. Cabal Trafficker! Alright, here we go.
One of my favorite cards, to be honest. If that card would have been...
it's not played, but yeah.
Well, it's not being played because Warlock is not being played, so that's definitely problematic if you want to play a Warlock card, right? But it's such a fantastic card when it comes to card advantage. I'm not saying the design is, like, sweet, because there are still random cards. So the power level can be from, garbage to ultimate destruction. And
ultimate destruction, I like that. So what is ultimate destruction if you get from Cabal Trafficker?
There's situation dependent. It depends on the situation, but it might be a Doomguard, it might be a Jaraxxus, right? It might be even a Taunt Minion, just to rescue your skin, right? Because you're playing against an aggro and you're getting a Taunt Minion every single turn. So it's one of those cards that has high risk, high reward, but might also have like very low lows.
The Manatide Totem is not getting answered immediately by ShtanUdachi unless he just jams the Polymorph. Oh, never mind, picked up the Frostbolt. Might opt to play it early, but playing a 6/6 is tempting. It's just kind of weak, because if he's able to answer it and then keep the Manatide alive and protect it, you're going to be far behind in a few turns. And that's semi-useful, right?
That's not bad, because you have spell damage here. So that's to some degree useful.
Yeah, I think Kolento is just going to go for protecting that Manatide as the line of play here. You just set up good protection against what his opponent's trying to do, so that means sniping the Manatide with minion play. When you see the 6/6 come out, you're thinking, alright, this guy's trying to attack into my guys and set up kind of a board versus board situation. But I think I've got a slight edge here. And this is one of the better targets for Hex in the matchup. I think there's like Alexstrasza at the top end, there's Medivh, but this 6/6 is perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, definitely. It still gives us some value to the Mage, but at the same time, it's like you have to use it on something, right? And it might be the case that the opponent will just not draw those endgame cards at all. And you still have Devolve. And you have the Manatide Totem to refill your hand.
Speaking of the devil, there she is, Alexstrasza herself showing up.
It's a dragon.
Speaking of the dragon, there she is, Alexstrasza herself.
Yeah, better.
Did I get the Lothar stamp of approval?
I
guess Cabal Trafficker was the devil. My bad.
Well, still, it's cool and all, and that Shtan did get the Alexstrasza, but there's no follow-up. There's literally no plan after the Alexstrasza. It's like, I'm gonna damage you, and then what? I don't have any burn spells. He didn't get fireballs yet. He did use 2 frostballs, if I recall correctly. At least 1. Might have been 2. And he still has access to Firelance portals. Most likely 1 Pyroblast. So there are options. But that's still 2 turns away. And Kolento's board is getting out of hand. The problem that ShtanUdachi had is that he just stopped playing because of the fact that he did draw all the secrets because they are Arcanologists, and he didn't just get bigger value. Doppelganger, not the best 5-drop you can get.
Not against J-Claws, it's
evolve
not.
it. Yeah, and if you can evolve it and get a Savannah Hymen out of it.
It's not bad.
Or 3 of them.
The Reddit meta is seeping in. Help. ShtanUdachi, no AoE. Wants a Flame Strike here. Needs a Flame Strike, actually. Something along those lines at the very least to catch up. Because Kolento's threatening a massive push of damage over the next few turns. More so if there's another Flame Tongue or the Bloodlust. 2 tools that you know are in the Shaman deck. And there's also the fact that Kolento's deck, you know, with the Hammer of Twilight, is representing 8 damage the Shaman usually doesn't have access to. That's 8 damage you can't prevent. It's 8 life you just won't be able to recover. Kolento telegraphing the Bloodlust, I feel, a little bit here.
Do you think so? So I still feel like this kind of falls into the natural plan of Shamans.
Okay.
Like, they just want to create a whiteboard. Every single Shaman.
Fair enough. And now we
Unless
could see
you're
Flame
playing
Striker
Malygos.
Blizzard. And he picks up the Blizzard off the glyph. With the little Trickster, can play it and deal 3 damage to everything. But is that good enough? He's gonna counterspell the Bloodlust? Alright,
Well,
Kolento's gonna check for that for sure.
Yeah,
Right?
Kolento will play with the default 100%. But it doesn't make even sense to play it right now. That's 15 damage,
Yeah,
17,
I'll take it.
18, 19, 20 damage. So 3 off.
I
So
think
he's
so.
not
With
able
Flame
to
Strike
pop it up.
around, I think I would do it every time.
So he needs to play Devolve first and then play Bloodlust. But the case is like, how often will you do that? Because if he checks for the Ice Barrier first, win the 1-1, then the Bloodlust just loses damage as well.
It lost 3 value, so you might be inclined to play Hammer of Twilight and then lose value afterwards. On the flip side, if his opponent... Well, I was going to say, if he just sees Hammer of Twilight, he's not going to be starting to Blizzard that stuff, because it seems kind of low value. Suddenly, Bloodlust is not as big a threat. But now that you see the 5-5 on top, you're Blizzarding this every time, no matter what.
Yeah.
We're back to square one.
Without that 5-5, he might have held it back, right? And maybe just would go for Alexstrasza this turn.
Oh, that Flame
Oh,
Strike is
look at that.
backbreaking. You have 2 choices: Flame Strike in your deck or Trickster Blizzard. I'm a big fan of just starting with the stuff that's in your deck, but since you don't want to take the 5 damage from the thing from below, the Blizzard makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I like it as well, to be honest. Alright, well, you need to play the Firefly to activate Kalamos next turn. We have to remember that in this matchup, Kalamos actually might just deal 6 damage in the face. That's good enough.
Yeah, and one of the questions we have as well is how exactly does Kolento finish off the game if his board gets wiped? So, like, what he's trying to see here is if there's another AoE, because if there is, he's going to be happy to play Kalamos for the 1/1s, probably. But alternatively, like, how does he close out the game if it's not for that?
That's the problem. I don't think he can, especially if ShtanUdachi will play smart and will keep the Alexstrasza to heal himself.
He has to fireball that 5/3 now, I think. Otherwise, his line of play makes
No
little sense.
right?
So he's playing around. He knows there's a Bloodlust potentially. Plays around it. Plays around it by saying, I have Counterspell, I'm good to go. But Kolento could play around the Counterspell by just devolving first, since there's little value to be found in the matchup beyond this point. And even
So
has
in
the
this
other
case,
elemental.
4-6, it's popped, right? Because it's 6
Yes.
damage from Kalamos, 4 damage, and 4 damage. So that's 14. So you can pop it at 1. Put a 7/7 on board, which doesn't die, to the Flame Strike, and you just saw also one Fireball being played. So that's a big heads up for Kolento, and I think he needs to just go all in here. The other option would be the Bloodlust, but then he's worried about the counter spell.
So you'd start with Devolve every time, and then play the Flame Elemental to enable the...
Well, you know, maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's the way. If his board is getting wiped, he can still rebuild with his hero power and maybe the Hammer of Twilight if that will happen.
I honestly thought he would hold off on Kalimos. I don't know why. I just assumed he would choose to Bloodlust early, as opposed to giving his opponent the chance to wipe clean with, you know, spell damage on board. Because if Flame Strike comes out here with an Ice Block number 2, you can't beat Alex. I mean, maybe you can, and I'm just not seeing the point.
I mean, there's still a 7/7, right? And the Alex has to be defensive.
Fair enough. So right now, ShtanUdachi can opt for Flame Strike Vaporize to play around the 7/7 connecting the face. That's going to take Kolento off guard, but Kolento could not possibly have known that, so the lineup play definitely did not account for Vaporize. Which makes sense. ShtanUdachi's trying to find a way to set up a kill, but without any fireballs left, I mean, that Pyroblast is going to have to sit in there unused for a long time to come. He's thinking about that Vaporize really hard, but Jade Lightning kills him. That Jade Lightning, man. He's playing it! You got Jade Lightning, you got Jade Claws, I'm done. If you don't, I win. Kolento now is going to have to play around Counterspell.
Well, he's asked the Devolve, and he wants to attack first before the Devolve.
Oh my god.
Oh, let's see.
There we go,
Devolve.
plays around it,
Nicely
finds the
played.
Jade Lightning off the draw, and closes out the series 3-2 over ShtanUdachi. That was a very close one at the very end there, got down to the wire. ShtanUdachi took a risk, played the Vaporize, but realized that if he didn't do that, he just wasted his Ice Blocks one after the other until they all got popped, since he simply could not deal with the 7-2 that was established on the board at that time. With 2 Frost Bowls gone, very few cards left for him to do that.
Finally, the Shaman wins for Kolento. It had its chances, but it failed until this point.
It's been banned against, like, when you're an aggro player against Kolento, you just ban it. And so Kolento's ideal matchups have already been figured out, and the opponents he wants to target with it simply don't bite. They simply say, you know what, fuck this. I don't want to deal with this. And so they just ban the Shaman every single time.
You could find.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, $5. I'll put $5 in the tip jar for that word. Yeah. That being said, guys, this will conclude our day. Let's look at the standings here to finish up the day. We've got Naaman in Group A with Neria at the very top of their group. Neria is done playing 7 matches for each player. RDU at the very top could still get caught up by Stansifka, but he's sitting safe and sound at the very top. There's Zalay. Also done. Kolento is just going to have to sit back, relax, and enjoy as he fights over the last spot to get into the next step, as Super JJ can still catch up, and Pavel as well, depending on how things go going forward. And on the other side,
go over the board, right, and win 2 times, and then take the 4th spot.
Right, it's still possible. Pavel can still go 4-3 at the moment. It's not over at all. If he just beats Sivka, I think, and Super JJ, he can make his way up to the 4th spot, and Kolento gets knocked down all the way to the bottom. So we'll see how this pans out on the 29th as we are done for the week. We're going to be back 3 days from now with all of the remaining matches. That is going to be the last day of this group stage with the round robin, and then we'll have all the final players, set in stone to know who's going to be going to the live event and who will be qualifying for the last chance, and perhaps from there make it to the live one. So, well, Thar, hope you had a great day. Are you going to be with me on the next casting day?
Next time from my home with a better internet.
All right, hopefully we don't get as much pixelation on the screen. So, guys, from myself, StarLadder, iLeague, and everybody who's working on the production crew, you guys have a nice one. And thanks for watching.